Oftentimes, the sketch stage takes the longest, and this assignment was no exception. Here's the approved sketch, but getting to this point took about a week. I believe I was given this assignment on a Monday, and we did about 7 rounds of sketches until we finally landed on this wave concept. I never really got to read the article because it sort of seems like the article was being written at the same time as the sketches were being made. But I knew that what we were talking about was a wave of money, a tsunami of money going into sports and sporting. So they had kind of a concept figured out already, and I had a lot of other ideas with more figures that were kind of central, but they really wanted the money wave to be central to this. So there was quite a bit of back and forth, and ultimately we landed on this concept showing a literal money wave flowing into a stadium. And now what you're seeing is the beginning stages of the final product. And although I bought a week to do the entire commission, we are looking at work done on a Monday that is going to end up needing to be finished by Tuesday morning. So here I am drawing and painting this all in one day, which is not uncommon. If you work as a commercial artist, working with deadlines this short or even shorter are not that uncommon. However, my work tends to be a bit more detailed, and I work with traditional paint and traditional medium, so sometimes drying time comes into play. That being said, I can still work fast, and I know how long it takes me to do certain things, but this one had some properties that were a bit of an unknown, so I knew that I had to make up certain aspects, and I obviously didn't pile a ton of money onto a football field and take a photo to work off of, so I had to kind of invent how this looks. I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to render every single dollar bill that's lying on the field. So getting the lighting consistent, figuring out the color, having decent reference, including posing myself for a few of these figures here. Those were all really important things to figure out before painting. So even though sometimes doing this drawing seems like it's quite a bit of work before painting, it's because I've actually figured a lot of stuff out so that hopefully the painting part can go quickly. So now I'm spraying this with workable fixative, and I do this in the garage or in the outdoor area of my studio so that I don't breathe in the fumes. And you should do the same. You shouldn't spray it indoors. And now I'm going to get to painting. I know that this is going to be a little bit of a stormy scene, so I'm going to have this sort of gray, green, blue that I cover over the entire painting. And since I've sprayed the drawing with workable fixative, I know that I'll still be able to see the line work as I paint over. Now I'm going to come in and do some sort of darker bluish gray colors that end up in the scoreboard here in large areas, but I'm also going to use this same color for some of the line work to reestablish some edges. It's going to end up appearing in the crowd in spots. So that's another time saver that I do, is I think of multiple areas where I can put certain colors. That way I'm not just sort of mixing a color, putting it in one spot, and then mixing a new color, putting it in that spot. I'm trying to work all over. So it saves time, but it's also a nice way to make sure that all of the colors feel and look cohesive and as if they're affected by the same light. So this will be the brightest color I put down thus far, this sort of yellowy green color, and it looks more yellow at the moment, but this is ultimately going to be what you see in the grass on the field. And at this point I'm about to stop because I'm going to head home. We'll see where it goes from here. About 10:30 p.m. and basically, I stopped around 4:30. I had to pick up my daughter from school, and then we did ballet, and then I did some family stuff, finished bedtime, and now I'm back here at the studio. This sucker is due tomorrow morning, but it's East Coast tomorrow morning, and I'm on the West Coast. So that means that I have kind of a long night ahead of me, which I'm not really looking forward to, but I figured I'd chronicle it from here. So basically, looking at this, I can see that it definitely needs lighter values, but there's actually a lot of work that's already been kind of figured out, because I did the drawing and I did some of the kind of harder edges that I reestablished with a darker color. So I think what I'm going to do now is actually establish a few more edges, get some of the lighter colors in, and the part that's going to probably take the longest is this wave of money, which I sort of need to invent as I go. So I have a sense of how it's going to look, but I'm not fully there. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to have a beer, put on some Weezer, and hopefully I can wrap things up in a few hours. So stay tuned. All right, so back to it. So as I said, I'm going to reestablish some of these lines here using darker blues, darker purples. And I do this knowing that what ends up happening is I'll put a lot of work in, and maybe it'll be, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, and it won't look like a lot has happened. But I'm doing this because I know that it kind of frames things so that when I do add color, it'll look way more complete in a short period of time. And as I'm going, I'm also kind of littering in color into the crowd area right here. And I know that, again, spreading the color around like this just helps to make everything look as if it's affected by the same light. So I'm not worried about the crowd being the focus. I'm not worried about any colors that are in the crowd really looking as if they should be the focal point. But by taking colors that I'm using and then, putting a little dab into the crowd here and there, it just kind of helps all the colors collectively look as if they're supposed to be in the composition because they're affected by the same light. Some warmer yellows, some orange color, some whites. So it's about 1 a.m. now, and I'm not as far along as I hoped I'd be, but it's starting to look good. I've added some brighter colors into the crowd, and that seems to have been kind of helping the balance of everything. And at this point, I'm sort of brightening certain things up. I have a feeling that once I really start digging into the greens and the kind of brighter white colors that appear on the money, I think that'll probably be the thing that really ties it all together. But it's gonna be slow, and hopefully I can just focus. I have to focus. It's due tomorrow, or actually today. So hopefully you can see at this point that things are starting to get a little bit brighter. The flesh tone colors are getting more vibrant. And the trick with this is that, again, I want the wave to be the focus. So I know that this color that I'm mixing right here, which is kind of a mint green, but when you first put it down, it doesn't look as vibrant. But that color hopefully stands out above the others by the time this is dry. And we'll see. Sometimes it's interesting because when you lay a color down, it looks totally different on the canvas, or in this case on the illustration board, than it does as you mixed it. And that's because there's a lot of other context that you have to factor in that affects the light and the way that it actually looks and feels. So sometimes you really just have to trust that as it dries, it will look the way you intended. So it's about 2:30 in the morning now, and it's a lot brighter than it was, which is good. It took a long time to just get to that point. And it's late. I haven't stayed up this late and painted for a deadline in quite a bit of time. So I'm hoping I can wrap things up in an hour and a half. What I usually do by the end of a painting is I make a little list, kind of like a checklist of things that I need to do and handle before I wrap it up. Because usually what happens is I'll be painting and I kind of get locked in, and I forget about an element here or there. So this is my way of just kind of making sure I don't forget about things, especially with something like this where there's kind of a lot of small details. With a deadline like this, I'm not going to get all of the detailed spots in that I want, but the main thing with this illustration is that the wave of money needs to be the focus. So that means I'm going to need to make sure everything else is kind of backlit, and by the time it's done, hopefully that all translates. So I'm going around now, just brightening things up. I want everything to feel very backlit in the foreground. So I know that the shadows that each of these players cast, the shadows that the pile of money cast, I know that it's going to sort of come towards us, the viewer. And hopefully what that does is it makes the wave feel imposing. And it also hopefully sets some of the foreground characters back enough so that there's no doubt that the wave is where we're going to focus. The other thing that I kind of consider in terms of how we focus is how this is going to look once there's the magazine name and once there's other copy. So working with the art director, we figured out where there needed to be a decent amount of negative space, or where I shouldn't put any really pivotal aspect of the illustration, so that by the time they laid things out, it wasn't disrupting any of the areas that needed to be legible. So I put some highlights on the nose and I'm signing it, calling it done. It's 4 a.m., 4:05 in the morning. I finished painting. I can't believe I'm still awake, but I'm done. And so now the next thing to do is photograph it and make sure all the colors look as they do in real life, and then send that file over. They did ask for some changes right at the very end. So I had to swap a few figures out. But anyways, it's all done. Thanks for watching.